Idly ho, neighbors. Oh God, no, sorry, I will never do that again. um, so I said on Tuesday that I was going to be back to take care of a couple of tags because I'm kind of behind. Excuse me. So today, the plan is for me to do the Teresa tag from Teresa Little Stitcher and the Stash Enhancement tag from Katie the Stash Queen. So let's get started. I am knitting, and I'm going to be knitting throughout the whole video because I don't really quite have a setup right now or a camera stand or anything that I could do something like Letitia did the other week, where she just chatted and did tags, and the video was actually focusing on her stitching. But I thought that was such a cool idea. Um, Maybe someday. But for now, it's just me and my sticks and my string. Um, so let's move things around. Okay, now I have my questions in front of me. Excuse me, and I just burped. I apologize. Oh, so classy. So sophisticated. The Teresa tag. Question 1. Do seasons affect your stitching? Like, do you stitch less in the summer, for example? Not that I've noticed for cross stitch. The seasons can affect my knitting. Like, I do knit less in the summer, or I knit little things in the summer, like socks. Also, I don't have a big wool garment draped in my lap when it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Um, but for cross stitching, generally, no. I haven't noticed the season um, affecting my stitching one way or the other. Question 2. Do you prefer stitching with a lap stand, floor stand, or in hand? Well, I do not have a lap or floor stand, and I've never used them, so I don't, and I desperately want to try them. So I don't have the experience to have a preference one way or the other yet. When I eventually move house, I want to um, make a lap stand using Pam Reed's method with PVC, because it looks simple, it looks inexpensive. Well, it is inexpensive, and it just seems like it would just be a pretty cost-effective way to see how I feel about lap stands in general. And it would also enable me to try things like two-handed stitching and stuff like that. So that's a plan. But right now, I can't say a preference one way or the other just because I don't know. Question 3. Do you prefer a hoop, Q-snap, frame, or in hand? I have not yet used a scroll frame. I would like to, especially because, it looks like it's really handy for larger projects like mirabilias and things. I use a hoop and a Q-snap pretty much interchangeably. I like them both, and tend to prefer having my fabric in something. In hand, I'm not a huge fan of. I will do it, but I prefer to have the fabric taut. So, question 4. Do you use a stitching light or no light, and if so, floor light or clip-on? Right now, I generally use the floor lamp I have in my living room if I need something. Here at my desk, I bought this really nice clip-on bendy light from IKEA. I think I showed this a few months ago. Um, it's really flexible and it's an LED. So I think when I have a frame or a stand, clipping, I will use this more because it's got the clippy thing. The clippy thing. I'm so being so technical today. Do you use a magnifier? And if so, what kind? Yeah, I use these little magnifiers. You're being too loud in my library. Organic Granny recommended these. These are just like 1.25 or 1.50 magnifier. Like I got these at the grocery store because when I first started um, stitching on linen, I was getting some eye strain, and this definitely helps. And for smaller counts of fabric, like 35 count, these are really, really handy. But these are the only form of magnification I use. So I don't have a big floor magnifier or anything. At least not right now, just because I don't really need one. Do you stitch one-handed, two-handed, or both? Question 6. Right now I just stitch one-handed. I want to try two-handed because it looks very efficient. Someday when I have a stand of some kind, I will absolutely try it. Question 7. Do you prefer to have a quiet place to stitch or be in the family, be around family in the living area? Yes. It totally depends on my mood. I imagine if I, like when I finally start my Mermaid of Atlantis Mirabilia, that at least initially I will want that will be a quiet place by myself kind of thing. But right now it's really either or. It depends on my mood. I don't get distracted. So number 8, preferred fabric and count. Right now it's linen, and I prefer 32 count. I would like to start branching out into some even weave just to try, Lugana, Jobelin, things like that, just to see. But I do, linen right now is my very favorite, and 32 count is good. I like 28 too, but I prefer 32. Question 9. Have you ever lost your stitchy bug? If so, how many times have you lost it and what brought it back? Haven't been stitching long enough to really lose my stitchy bug yet. I've lost my knitty bug a couple of times, and honestly, you just have to be patient and wait for it to come back. Something will bring it back. Just you'll get inspired. That's how it always is. That's how it always is with knitting. Pick up your other hobbies, read, and still keep your keep your finger in the stitchy pie, I would say, even though that sounds weird and kind of obscene. But stay connected in some way, because you don't know, maybe you'll see a pattern that will, you'll want to stitch, and that'll bring your stitchy bug back. That's how it always is with me in knitting. I can remember I had kind of just nothing was really doing it. Nothing I saw was really doing anything for me. None of my whips were really inspiring me. And my friend Lisa, who has a sheep farm in Maryland, in the United States, lovely woman. Her sheep are wonderful. I like to go down there and just meet the sheep and pet the sheep and talk to the sheep and talk to her pig and wave at the peacocks and just generally relax. But she had a pattern there for a wrap. It was a lace wrap, and the lace pattern was determined. It was totally one of a kind. You rolled dice. She called it her entropy wrap, and the dice determined um, the the lace pattern. And she'd had this beautiful yarn spun up from her the wool from her flock to to go with it in different colors, and that just blew me away. I'd never seen anything like it before, and that brought it back right away. Um, Most recently, I kind of lost my knitting bug because I discovered the joy of cross stitching, and I was feeling guilty because knitting is my first love. Um, but then I thought, I shouldn't feel guilty about a hobby, and so I just kind of embraced cross stitching, and then I got some beautiful yarn for my birthday, and that did it. I got inspired, and I think that's how I am. If you lose your stitchy bug, just don't feel bad. Just go for it, and just go with it. Rather, do something else, but still pay attention to what's going on um, with the hobby that's kind of gone by the wayside, and something will happen to something will move you. That was kind of rambly, but hopefully it made sense. Last question, question 10. Do you travel and stitch? Do you stitch on public transport, or is it a home only hobby? Um, I would pack up my cross stitching and take it with me while I was traveling so that I could stitch when I got to my destination. But knitting is definitely my planes, trains, automobiles craft. I think it's more portable. Um, there's a lot less um, stuff to keep track of. With stitching, you've got, your frame if you have one, and your fabric, and your needle minder, your needles, your floss, your scissors, um, string and sticks. That's just kind of my no-brainer. Um, so I find it easier to knit, say, in the car. Um, at least on something simple. I don't bring complicated patterns in the car because I don't. Reading in the car doesn't always agree with me, but I think that I would I would might get a little car sick if I had to keep referring to a cross stitch pattern while in the car. But I would, yeah, as I said, absolutely, pack stitching up and put it in my suitcase to take with me on a trip. But as far as during the actual physical act of getting from point A to point B, I prefer to bring knitting. So that was a fun tag, Teresa. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the stash enhancement tag, which I'm a little anxious about just because I think I said before, I've only been stitching since March of this year. Um, and I don't really feel qualified to, like, make suggestions. um, and my stash, my personal, cross stitch stash is tiny. Um, Part of that is by design because I don't like clutter. I have a couple of confession time. I have a couple of hoarders in my family, like like legit hoarders. Like it's bad. Um, and so I try to push back on that, even though they're not like in my immediate family. Um, so it's not like my mom's a hoarder or anything like that, but still, you know, close enough family that it affects me. And well, when I was younger, it affected me. So I, um, having a huge stash, kind of, the idea of it kind of makes me a little bit anxious. So yeah, that there's that. Did I have what was the point of that? I don't know. That's why I don't have a very big stash, and I don't know that I ever will, even though there are healthy ways to do it. Obviously, I mean, look at all of you. Also, just I haven't been stitching long enough, so like for some of the questions, like the last two questions, I feel kind of like not qualified to suggest, you know, a must-have pattern or a must-try designer. But I do have some answers, and I'm just gonna go with it anyway. So, stash enhancement tag question 1. What is your favorite pattern in your stash that you haven't started yet, and what has kept you from stitching on it? Right now, my favorite pattern in my stash is Master and the Macabre by Cricket Collection. What's kept me from stitching this? It's not October yet. Soon, soon, my pretty. What is your favorite non-pattern item in your stash? Where the hell is it? It's a needle minder. And then my kid broke it because 4-year-olds. So I need to figure out how to glue the magnet back on in a way that it will stay. But from Pinoy Stitches, I think that's how it's pronounced, on Etsy, I have a Dracula, the novel, needle minder. My current favorite. They have Treasure Island now too recently that, oh, want, not gonna buy it because Stash diet, but that was like one of my favorite books as a child, Treasure Island, and I want it. Not gonna get it for a while, but I want it. Anyway, I'll link the shop down below. That is my current non-pattern item in my stash. Question 3. What do you have the most of in your stash? Patterns, floss, fabric, or other floss? Definitely. And it's mostly DMC. Just how it's happened. Question 4. Besides your LNS and big box craft shops, where's your favorite place to buy stitching supplies? Definitely Etsy and 123 Stitch. 123 Stitch generally just has like the supplies, the fabrics, the flosses, things like that. I really like looking at indie pattern designers on and needle minders and fobs and things like that on Etsy. It's a gold mine. Name one item meant for cross stitch that you have repurposed for your craft. I'm going to cheat because I don't really have one. I have my little mini Swiss Army knife that has scissor attachments. So these are my cross stitch scissors, and they're starting to get dull, and so I know I should eventually invest in some like actual nice cross stitch scissors. But for right now, it's me in this look. I've had this guy since college. Like, It's got a little pen. It's got a knife that you could, oh hell, I think you could probably cut cheese with it. Ha ha ha, cut the cheese. You could, like, look at this. It's like 1.5 inches long. You couldn't, maybe if you were a medical student, you could stab somebody in the carotid with this thing, but other than that, it ain't doing much. It has a nail file. And it has an ineffectual little light. But this thing, yeah, it's still going strong, and it's like 14 years old. So, Swiss Army brand stuff is good. Anyway. A lot of people, if I had more Krynic, I would probably do the ammo box thing, but honestly, like, I'm a hippie pacifist, dove, peace and love person, and I feel really, really uncomfortable walking into a sporting goods shop and be like, show me your ammo cases. Yeah. It is a good idea, though. What question are we on? Number 6. Name one item in your stash that you were enabled to purchase after seeing someone else with that item. Can I do 2? Mostly because 2 come to mind right now. Where are you? One is this needle minder from a shop on Etsy called Stitchingly Along. And when I first started watching Coffee Stitcher, one of the first videos of his that I saw, he had gotten some needle minders from there and a scissor fob. And I looked at them, and they had Nightmare Before Christmas gear, and I got really excited. So I bought Jack Skellington, and then I bought a needle minder that had a little sheep on it. But my daughter stole that one. And so that's how that goes. And the other item in my stash that I was enabled to buy was this, Because of Carolyn. Mermaid of Atlantis. Oh, the beating scares me. I think I'm going to start her in January of next year. You know, maybe use Hanukkah money to finish kitting her up. But, oh, beating scares me. Oh, does beating ever scare me. But, suck it up, Buttercup. What question? Question 7. If someone asked you what was the one must-have pattern for their stash, what would you recommend? Okay. I have a real answer, but I'm going to give you my cop-out answer first. I think everyone should have one pattern in their stash that makes them a little squirrely. Like, you should have, I think everyone should have one pattern in their stash that, for them, pushes the envelope just a little bit. Because I think it's good for us. Go outside your comfort zone. And it's a craft. It's a hobby. It's not like going outside your comfort zone with your hobby is going to hurt you. So that's my cop-out answer. My actual answer is I think everyone should probably have, especially if they're starting out, a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery sampler. Like, I have the Fibre-Friend sampler, which I love. But they have some other fun samplers too. Like, don't they have that dessert sampler? They've got a cherry blossom sampler, which honestly concerns me about just like cultural appropriation and like, is that an actually accurate depiction? But that's not the point right now. But they have a few of these styles of samplers. And why I'm recommending these is, first of all, each little component feels like a mini finish. At least it did to me. You know, like the little clothesline with the socks and the sweater on it felt like a mini finish. The sheep did, the bunny, the yak, the alphabet, you know, the scarves, the socks, the knitter, the crocheter, the spinning wheel, the alpaca. So it's very motivating, and also I like that it's kind of a modernist take on your traditional sampler. Even though traditional samplers are lovely, you know, new spins on things are really cool. So that's why I would recommend a Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery sampler for your stash. Last question. One designer, like if someone asked you what one designer they had to check out to enhance their stash, who would you pick? This is hard because it really depends. Like, I don't know what everyone likes, you know. And I'm going to give some shout outs to a couple of designers I found on Etsy. Like, Garrett, I'm going to call you out again, Coffee Stitcher. I know Coffee Stitcher is not a huge fan of Quaker style cross-stitch patterns. So knowing that, I'm not going to tell him, go look at Modern Folk on Etsy. Now, if you do, you know, like Quaker style designs, yes, go check out Modern Folk on Etsy. Beautiful work, nice fresh take on Quaker style samplers and just folksy kind of samplers in general. I think if you want to go to Etsy and then go to his website directly from there, he's based in the UK, but he has like hand-dyed variegated flosses and fabrics and things like that. So if you want to, in addition to the pattern, purchase say the floss that the pattern was stitched with, that you see the model stitched with, he will mail it to you if you purchase through the website. But obviously, like if I know, like for example, I know Garrett isn't really into that, I'm not going to say, Garrett, you have to have some Modern Folk in your stash. Because why? If you're not going to like the pattern and you're never going to stitch it, why the hell should you have that, you know, that designer's work in your stash? But if you do like that style, Modern Folk. Primitive Hair. I would definitely recommend checking out Primitive Hair. Again, if you don't like primitive stuff, then maybe don't check out Primitive. I mean, look, obviously, because you might see something that catches your fancy, but like, they're not a must-have for you. If you really just don't like primitive style cross-stitch work patterns, then don't. Who else? Those are the two I have found most recently that I really, really like. There's also this site called Private Garden. Well, the English translation of the website name is Private Garden. I do not speak French, so I'm not even going to try to mangle the French name of the site, but I found her through oh, you know, awesome lady, does a lot of hardanger and likes hand-dyed flosses and fabrics, Mrs. Milky Bar Kid. I found her through Mrs. Milky Bar Kid. Really beautiful work. She designed this thing called Story of Sheep that I have to have, and someday I will. this beautiful sampler, and it's huge, but it comes in parts. Um, what else? She's got some, some alphabet patterns and samplers. She's got houses, and she's got some Christmas stuff. So I think there's probably something for everyone in Private Garden, and I will link her below as well. So those, I guess, are three designers that are a must-have. Like they're all must-haves, depending on what you like or what you don't like. And those are the tags. That was fun. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Teresa. Stitches, get back on the needle. Get back. Thank you. Yeah. So those are the tags. I think I'm pretty much caught up on. If there's a tag that you have not seen me, that I have not done, that you would like me to do, comment. I will do it. It doesn't even have to be cross-stitching related. Yeah. So that's all. It's Friday here today. So I hope everyone has a lovely weekend, and you get lots of stitchy time, or at least time to do something that makes you happy. And hopefully I will be back here on Tuesday with a whip update. Okay? So, take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.